It would be fair to describe my fishing success over the last 3 sessions as varied. Well, when I say varied, what I mean is I haven't caught anything. First time I came here was about 8 weeks ago. It was freezing cold, caught nothing. Well, good morning. Today finds us on a trout fishing lake. I'm going to be using a Gray's 9'6", so it's going to be a 6 weight. I'm probably going to be starting off with a floating line. The water here is about 2 meters deep, and so it's not really a question of having to travel through 20-30 foot of water to find fish. I'm going to start on the top, and then with every cast I'm going to let the fly drop a little bit further. I haven't really thought too much about flies. It's grey, overcast. I feel a bit cold already. I've only been out here a couple of minutes, and it's probably going to get colder. And I thought, I'm just getting over a cold myself, so what's the perfect way to get over a cold is to come and get cold and maybe catch a trout or two. So I'm just going to tackle up, and then we'll have a bit more of a talk. But I need to get myself sorted out on this boat because I've got stuff everywhere. The main thing is I've got my cup of tea here. So let's have a quick look at tackle. Last time I came it was blowing a gale. I caught nothing. Well, I'm fishing from a boat today, and I'm after trout, and I very nearly didn't come because it was snowing yesterday, looking really bleak, and overnight the temperature dropped to -2, and I came down this morning and there was ice in the boat, and myself, shall we do this or shan't we do it? My default motto is you've got to be in it to win it. So on the basis that you've got to be in it to win it, here I am again. So we're fishing for trout, and I've got a 4-piece Gray's rod, which is an 8 weight, and I only seem to have 3 pieces, which is interesting. Aha! Panic over, Captain Mannering. Here's the 4th one. So I'm going to set up with an 8 weight line, and I'm probably, last couple of times I've been using like really big flies, big garish Christmas tree flies. I'm going to scale it all down. I'm going to go for sort of size 14 nymphs, brown and green, and I'm going to see if that's going to do any good. But first of all I've got to work out how to put my rod together. Oh dear, I haven't cleaned this. This is poor. Look at that, mud everywhere. So that is the weight forward 6 sink tip. Okay, I've changed my tactics already. I'm going to go with the sink tip. I really probably shouldn't be fishing at the bottom to start with. The trouble is there's quite a ripple on the water, so it's hard to see any fish that are on the surface unless they're going to jump into the boat. So complete change of plan, because I guess basically I'm lazy and I've just grabbed the first reel and therefore line that has come into my possession. So let's get this baby sorted out. This is always the tricky bit. It's on a boat with a 9'6" rod and only short arms, is getting the line through. And of course the most important thing is, when you're in a hurry, as I am always in a hurry, is making sure you don't miss out any rings. So I'm going to need to calm down, go through all the rings, and then select a fly. Make up my mind. I'm definitely going to go with something a bit nymphy and a bit greeny browny, but I can't make up my mind whether to go for something with a big tail like these the green damsel blue flash gold heads. I'm thinking I might just try one of these babies, because I'm fishing with a sink tip, so it'll get me down to the bottom, and quite often that tail is a bit enticing. The downside of that, of course, is that they will sometimes grab the tail. Ooh, look, there's a cormorant. Certainly don't want him to be catching fish. So they sometimes grab the tail, but I guess if they grab the tail, I can always shorten the tail or change flies. So I'm going to start with that on a sink tip 6-weight line, and see how we get on. So the biggest challenge for me is always tying the fly, but I seem to have managed it. So let's just cut that baby off. So the wind's sort of coming that away, so that means I'll get the fly out this way. And that wasn't my best cast, but it's in the water. I tend to try a little slow retrieve, and get faster and faster, because I know the fly has caught fish here before, and quite often it's not so much the fly as the method that's important. So I'm just a figure of 8, fairly slow retrieve. Well, actually this is quite a medium retrieve, and then I'll just probably speed up a little bit. As I say, we're in about 2 meters of water, so I'm just going to count to 10 so that the fly is pretty much on the bottom, and then with the sink tip it'll just sort of bobble along the bottom. Well, in my mind it's bobbling along the bottom, we'll see. 2 casts and no fish, this is disappointing. It's a nice still day, even though there's a little bit of a ripple on the water. You wouldn't say it was windy at all. I'm just going to speed up a little bit, just so that the fly is, although it's got a gold head on, so it's weighted, it'll just be a little bit further off the bottom. I'm going a little bit faster to make it a little more interesting. Right, I've had a dozen casts or so with this this blue flash damsel. Nothing, possibly one nibble, but it could equally have been, it was caught on something on the bottom, so we're going to put that in there. Have have another look. I might try this one. So this is, again, it's a goldhead. Got a bit of blue in it. A little bit of a tail. I've caught fish on this before. The trouble is, it's the only one I've got. I don't even know where I got it from, and it's starting to unravel. Because I've caught a few fish on it. So, in one sense, I'm a bit reluctant to use it. But on the other hand, it's caught me fish. So I'm in this sort of dilemma. So we'll see what we will see. And let's go for something. Let's go for something a bit smaller. Maybe something with a little bit of a tail, a little bit of white on it, like a little upwing fly. Let's try that one. I think sometimes when I'm changing fly, I'm just trying to convince myself. Not sure there's a massive amount of... Well, I'm thinking that tail might look a little bit like a bloodworm. So this fly kind of ticks several boxes. It's got little white wings on it, but at the same time it's got a bit of a tail. So we will see. Right, still nothing. So I've come to the conclusion that it can't possibly be me. It must be the fact there's no fish here. So the time has come to move. So I'm going to stick the fly on the cork here. Put the rod down. Try not to step on the rod and break it. And in the meantime, up the anchor. If I can. Right, let's head to pastures new. I fancy up there a little bit. There's an island up there, and I'm probably going to anchor just off the island and see if there's a deep spot that might hold a fish or two. Well, to show how optimistic I am, I'm putting on a new leader. It's a £5 tip. I always do this. I end up with more knots to start with than I ever do when I'm fishing. Right, that looks looking good. And the rain is continuing to pour down here. And the rain's good for fishing, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. It's just not very good for fishermen. So that's our leader on. Let's select a fly. So we're going for something small. Oh, and on the way here, hot sausage roll, short crust pastry, and I have tea. So I've got to try and keep that dry. So, what have we got? Small. How about? Oh, I've got a little gold head here, but the whipping's coming undone. Have I got another one? I do. So, how about that bad boy? Small goldhead. I can say that with a straight face. This is my lunch, by the way. This is a sausage roll. So these are the squirmy wormies. I've got quite a few. Maybe they are sweets after all. So the idea is you can separate them out. They're like a bloodworm. So that's where you tie it on just there, and it just floats around like a bloodworm in the water. So I've got some other bloodworms that are just like half that. They're just the end, but they don't have a front and a back, if you know what I mean. So I think that's probably going to be my first plan. I may actually, because it's quite there's a little bit of wind, but not very much, certainly not enough to bother me, so I might actually put one with some droppers on and have a squirmy wormy on one of the droppers, something else on another dropper, and then on the point fly, see, I'm making this up as I go along, on the point fly I might put something that floats, something that's pretty horrible and yellow, so it might attract them, and then they see the squirmy wormy and go, mm-mm. So that's the plan. So I'm going to turn the camera off now because it takes me about 20 minutes to put a leader on. Wormy. Now I imagine that is quite an attractive thing to see in the water. But considering that a fish will just nip the tail of something that's about that big, goodness knows what it's going to do with that lot. But we can but try. Imagine this is something just to be something, what's going on here? Something just to be left in the water and just let it just drift. So ladies and gentlemen, I give you the squirmy wormy. At last. Fish. Well, it's on the hook. It's on something called a squirmy wormy, which is I almost don't even like to use the word because it sounds like Haribo or something. It's not the biggest fish I've ever hooked in here. You're not going to find me complaining. Ooh, lucky. It's bigger than I thought it was. Well, that's very annoying. So I've been using a squirmy wormy. I caught one, and then a bit later on I hooked one, and it was on for a few seconds and it got off. And I think the issue is that there is so much to get in the trout's mouth that it can quite easily just get hold of the end. The end just stretches and eventually it comes off. The other thing I've noticed is that because there's so much rubber, I'm getting quite a lot of tangle, so I'm having to watch and check quite regularly, because you know what it's like if you get some kind of knot with the fly and you keep casting, it just gets 10 times worse. So I have to say it's proving to be quite successful, but it's not an easy fly to use. So this is on a green damsel. Jumpy jumpy out of the water. There he is. I think I might just risk getting the net. Don't want to push my luck, but I think I'm going to need the net at some point. So there's the net, and there's the fish. Yes. If you didn't want to come into the net, why'd you come so close? There we go. A lovely rainbow trout. When I was dispatching that second fish, I was holding quite close to the head and I whacked my finger. Oh, that's going to come up with a massive bruise there. What an idiot. Well, we've come to the end of the session. It's 1 o'clock and I'm feeling I need my lunch. So it's now settled down to wind, no rain, and you can't really see fish moving. And I think because it's got a bit colder, they seem to have gone off the feed. So I can't complain. The last 2 sessions I've caught no fish, not even had a nibble. This session I caught 2, and I had one on that I lost on a Squirmy wormy, and a couple of pulls on a green damsel, blue flash, goldhead. So can't grumble. 2 fish, nice size, good eating, and it's nice to be out in the fresh air.